Here are both of my computers. On the left is the 2017, and of course on the right is the 2021 M1 Max. The specs on the 2017 is 15-inch i7, 2.9 gigahertz, 1 terabyte, and the RAM is 16 gigabytes. With the 2021, it's 16-inch Apple M1 Max chip, 4 terabytes, and 64 gigabytes of RAM. I prefer to have bigger laptop screens as I do use all the real estate, and so for my new M1 Max I decided to get the 16-inch, which is an inch higher from my prior 15-inch computer. I'm sure you already heard Apple went backwards in terms of the design of the laptop. At first everything was becoming slimmer and slimmer, but that came at a cost of losing certain ports that we actually needed. Apple also realized that Pro line users would rather really have functionality and certain ports over a slimmer laptop. And so they listened and gave us back the ports that we actually use. But of course that came at a cost. The computer is a lot much thicker and heavier, and you could even see compared to my 2017 just how much thicker it is. If there's one thing I really hated from my last computer, it's the butterfly keyboard. If you didn't know, the butterfly keys is basically the worst keyboard released on Apple's MacBook. When it was first introduced, it didn't seem like a bad idea. The keys were basically flat, but later on, trouble started to arise where people were experiencing double character strokes hitting from just one key, or the keys themselves are falling apart. Unfortunately for me, I experienced both of those things, and now thankfully on the new M1 Max, it feels like an actual keyboard. Both trackpads feel the same, but I haven't heard anyone talk about it on the new M1 Max. I noticed when I was editing this video, there's a small vibration when I snap to grid, which is pretty cool. Of course, another big overhaul is also the keyboard. On the very top of the M1 Max, it's now a full set of keys. It's no more the touch grip. Some people liked it, some people hated it. For me, it was bittersweet. I did find it very useful when I needed to quickly see whether a file had audio. As you could see where the audio is, sharing files with AirDrop was also quicker. The bitter part is definitely the freezing part. I hated how it froze when it's too hot, and if you needed to turn down the volume very quick, you might just be out of luck. Now let's get to the fun part of comparing the computer's performance. Let's see how fast these computers turn on. At first when you look at it, it looks like the 2017 loaded faster, but I found out later that that's only just a login screen. It really doesn't boot up all the startup files yet until you put the password. Whereas the M1X sort of does boot up. You put in the password, it does a few more seconds of booting up, and it's basically done. So you can see the M1X is done, whereas the 2017, it's still loading and booting up its files. For the sake of time, I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward this, and here is the total times. I purposely did not turn on the AC because the laptops will have to work harder to perform, and without even launching any apps, you could hear the 2017 fan noise is going off. I've pushed the performance of the M1 Max pretty hard, and in over a month, I'm still waiting for the fan to turn on. Also, before I pass out from this heat, let me see you hit the like button and subscribe. Prior to my 2017, I was upgrading from a 2012, and so when I first came to a 2017, I thought 500 megabytes per second was pretty fast for a write speed, and the read speed was a little shy away from 2000. Now to have the M1X going well above 3,800 for write and over 5,700 for read definitely blew me away. That's more than 10 times the speed, and wow. Let's try opening a few apps and see how fast they open up. You can see here in the Notes app, the M1X opened up a little faster. Let's try opening up Notion. M1X again is faster, a little more obvious of a difference. Try opening up the finders. The M1X once again is more faster. The calendar app, M1X again. And then for Ableton, let's see how fast. As we expected, the M1X again. The 2017 laptop wasn't that far behind in terms of launching applications, but when you're actually loading up projects, that's where the M1X for sure shines and does even a more obvious difference. The speakers on the 16-inch M1 Max is crazy good. I mean, wow. Take a listen. The 16-inch battery is pretty great. You could literally go 2 to 3 days without charging it, being that you're doing light things. But let's say you're doing music production or editing a video, you could definitely go maybe 8 hours without charging it. The dock at my workstation is always charging my laptops, which means the battery may not last just as long, and that's exactly what happened to my old laptop after 5 years degrading on the battery, and it's already asking for replacement. So I did get Apple Peer. I'm hoping that this computer does last long and does not lose percentage, but if so, at least we're covered. So around 150. $150. Still going. 300. Let's do some more. Alright, let's Hail Mary this. Might freeze it up. There it is. 700. There we go. $600 Serum versus 150. Compatibility. I wanted to wait as long as possible to make sure my plugins are compatible, but I couldn't wait any longer. Luckily, when my computer was pushing me to my last nerve, majority of my plugins have already been compatible, and in the same month I got my computer, more of them came out and majority of all my plugins are now here. If some plugins don't work, more likely they're gonna run on Rosetta. So in order for it to have faster native, you're gonna have to wait for the update. Now the thing about that is most plugin companies, where I did not see this coming, well, they will make you upgrade their package so it enables native, and that costs money. I had to upgrade the licenses of new plugins. Some of my plugins also did not work, so I had to make the decision to choose which ones I wanted to have native support. There's a couple things that I needed to do that I had no idea. When I tallied everything up, I actually ended up spending another $1,000, and that's just to have Monterey OS M1 compatibility, right? So budget that within your budget if that's not a thing you could do right now. Also, you should know that some plugins will no longer work. The MacBooks do not support 32-bit anymore. It's now all 64-bit. So if your plugin is a 32-bit, well, it's gone. Only 64. Also, I noticed the VST2 plugin folder is also disappeared. I can only now see VST, VST3, and audio unit. So I don't know if that's just a me thing, but I did notice that's gone, which sucks because I did used to use the VST2 and some of my plugins do not load properly. And the last con, of course, is again, some plugins are still on Rosetta, which I have seen plugins loading a little slower, but the good thing is that's not forever. Majority of these software companies are still working hard. So there's definitely drawbacks to upgrading. Again, I kind of just had to do it. So in the end of the day, is all this worth it? 100% worth it. If you have a 2020, 2021 laptop or already an M1, one of the original ones, maybe you could wait for an M2 Max chips If you could wait a little longer, maybe go ahead and do that. For me, being that it's a 2017, I was already trying to upgrade a few years ago, but I knew this computer was gonna come out, so I wanted to just wait. I 100% love it. Also, make sure to double check if most of your plugins are compatible, and you can see that in the list below. If it is, then go ahead and upgrade. If it's not, then you should probably wait. But even if you decide that most of your plugins are compatible, make sure you don't have to pay anything additional like I did just to have the newer versions. If you want to know more in-depth features about what's new on the laptops, you could check out this video here. And if you got any value from this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.